Hey guys, so if you're a kid and ready to start college, or if you're in college and you're just studying a massive amount and you're just getting nowhere, you're just not getting the grades, you got to watch this video. I'm telling you. I'm going to give you like a simple, surefire formula for doing like a fraction of the homework. Seriously. And you're going to get a 4.0, or at least close most semesters. I'm telling you, this is time tested by me. It actually worked for me. But unfortunately, I didn't learn about it until probably my junior year in college. So I wish I had learned about it either going in or really early in the process, because it really works. So first, let me give you a little of the backstory. So I went to Lehigh. It was a good school. I did well in high school, but when I went into Lehigh, I felt really insecure. I knew, I went to a really huge high school, public high school, and it was easy for me to get good grades. I didn't study. I had horrible study habits. When I was in high school, sophomore, junior, senior year, I was already doing all-nighters, just procrastinate. I just wasn't a good studier, and I knew that going into college. And I was so intimidated going in. And so I think two things. Number one, I had horrible study habits. I didn't know the game plan for getting good grades and doing like a minimal, not a minimal, but just a portion of the hours that I was doing. That was number one. And number two, I think it was just this insecurity, just this feeling like I'm just not smart enough. So that was what I was grappling with. So when I got to school, I spent hours and hours in the library thrashing back and forth, opening my books, closing my books. A lot of it had to do with anxiety. A lot of it just had to do with I just had really bad study habits, and that continued. And as a result, I didn't do well. I was in like a science sort of engineering type program, and the classes were hard. I was intimidated, and I was kind of all over the place. And I wish somebody had said to me, "Look, nobody's counting the number of hours in the library. Nobody knows that you're in there for 10 hours. You get no credit for that. It's not about the number of hours you put in. It's making the time that you spend studying, making them count." So again, I had no game plan. I didn't have the formula for success. And then starting in my junior year, I had a conversation with somebody that kind of changed things, like 100% changed things entirely. So that was, she was a year younger than me. Her name was Carol. Beautiful girl. I had such a crush on her. So I was in sort of the big party, very popular fraternity, Sigma Chi, and she was in our sister sorority, Gamma Phi. And Lehigh was 100% just focused on fraternities, so a total party school. So, I was in like the party school of the century and the number one party house on campus. And Carol was in the same thing on the sorority side. But I knew, everybody knew, Carol had like 4.0, and she was in accounting, which was not an easy major there. And one time, it was like maybe a month or two into my junior year, I kind of pulled her aside and I said, like, "Carol, like, how do you do it? I see you at all the parties. I never see you in the library. You're just always having a good time. And you have a 4.0. Like, what's the secret?" And she was so nice. Like I said, I had a crush on her. She liked me too. She liked me as a friend. She didn't. It wasn't reciprocal in terms of having a crush on me. But she was so kind. She said, "Look, Spence, just do this. Do this one thing, and this is the formula." She said, "First of all, do your reading the night before your classes. Definitely do your homework, but don't spend massive amounts of time trying to understand everything. Just go through it so you have context. And make sure you go to every single lecture, go to every class. And in those classes, take notes on everything the professor says. Write everything down. Not longhand, just enough so that it triggers your memory so you remember what he said. So take everything down." And then she said, here's the critical part, and this is what people don't do. She said, "That afternoon, rewrite your notes. And don't wait till the nighttime, to the evening. Don't wait till the next day, or don't wait till the weekend. Do it that afternoon while it's still fresh in your head. Rewrite your notes and make them like clear, succinct, and just very easy to access. So if you read them a month or 2 or 3 months later, when you're studying for like the final, you'll know exactly what it said. And when you're writing your notes, if there's anything that you don't understand, you didn't understand during lecture, or when you're rewriting it, you're like, that doesn't make sense, make note of that, write it down on a list, and then go to your professor's office hours, and then knock on his door and spend time with your professor, get the answers to the questions, and then go back and add them to your outline. She said, you do that, and you're going to spend like a fraction of the time, just a small portion of the time you're already spending, and you're going to get a 4.0. Well, starting that semester, again, it was first semester junior year, from that day on, I followed Carol's formula to a T. I did it every day. And by the end of that semester, I didn't have a 4.0 because I didn't start off good. I had to kind of like practice all this. But I did a whole lot better. I was more in the A range than the B minus range. And I got to tell you, before that, when I was freshman, sophomore, I was getting like D's in classes. Like I remember taking, so again, I was in a kind of a science engineering program. I had to take three levels of engineering calculus. The second level, I think I took 3 times. So I think I failed it twice. And then the third time, I think I got like a C plus or something. But by first semester junior year, I was much more in the A range. And then second semester junior year, I think I had a 4.0 or real close. Same thing with first semester senior year. Second semester, I already had gotten to grad school, so I didn't really care. I think I was like partying way too much. So we won't count that. But anyway, again, it really worked for me. And then I applied it to that program, did the same thing in grad school, and then eventually in law school. And the cool thing is, like, when it comes like the night before your exam, whether it's a midterm or in law school, most classes you just have one test. It's a final. So you have to remember stuff in December that you had learned in September. And because I had all my notes written out, just crystal clear and really short, it would be like the night before my final, and I would be done studying. I would have nothing to study past like 8 o'clock. And grad school, law school, I graduated toward the top of my class, did really well and everything else. So it really, really worked. So let me give you just a little more detail on some of the pieces, the 4 pieces to this. First is the studying part, the studying the night before. Again, don't go overboard, feel like you have to learn everything. Because what they teach in the lecture the next day, the things that the professor focuses on, that's what they're going to test on. But, study enough so that you have the context. And the other thing, this is the most important thing in terms of, spending a lot less time sitting in the chair studying, is don't let yourself get distracted. Distractions, they don't just take up the time that you're doing something else. They take up more time than that, because there's something called context switching. Your brain kind of adjusts to whatever it is you're focused on. And if it's a different context, it takes some time for your brain to adjust to that. So when you get distracted and then come back to your studying, it takes time for your brain to readjust again. So if you can have your phone on, you're getting notifications, and you're doing chats with your friends and texting, that's going to like double, triple the amount of time that you need to study to get the same value out of it. So that's number one. It's like, put the phone down, let your friends know that you're doing your homework, and they need to leave you alone. Second thing is, just to avoid distraction, find a dedicated study space, a space where like that's what you do when you're sitting there. You're studying. That's not your bed. Your brain kind of associates bed with sleeping. It's not the lounge, on your dorm, with the TV and everybody chatting and trying to study. That's your brain is telling you that's where you socialize. Find a space that's dedicated to studying, so that and your brain knows when you're there, like that's what you're focused on. And the other thing is, this is in terms of just getting the most super efficient studying, learn to focus, learn to meditate. Now, what I always did, is I spend just a few minutes every morning. I pray, I communicate with God, and I say very focused, and that helps my brain just, cancel out the distractions. Now, for me, it's beyond just trying to do well in school or in my job. For me, it's about life. To me, having a good, happy life is about having a good relationship with God. And I got a confession I got to make. I'm not doing a YouTube channel devoted to, helping college kids succeed in college. This is a one-off. This is me telling, what I told my kids, what I wish somebody had told me is so important. So, this message on helping kids with college, this is one thing that's important to me, but you're not going to hear anything more from me on this. But if you're interested in, learning about how to apply sort of basic, fundamental Christian values and teachings to everyday situations, then please do subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you part of my community. But if you're not interested in that, that's okay. The second part of the formula, again, is make sure you go to every class. Don't skip classes. Go to the lectures and really listen to everything the professor's saying. You should be like a laser beam focused on sort of every word. Make sure you write down every concept. And if you're taking notes and your goal is to make sure you, on paper, you capture everything, you're going to be much more sort of physically engaged. So you're not going to drift off. I remember I think it was the second semester of my sophomore year, I was in organic chemistry, which is a really, really hard class. But anyway, I was in this big lecture hall, and there were, I don't know, probably a couple hundred kids. And I remember this was before I talked to Carol. I was sitting there with my head on my arms on the desk, just kind of, maybe my eyes were closing or something, but apparently I offended my professor because he called me out right in the middle of lecture. He said, I didn't even know he knew my name, but he said, well, apparently, Spencer feels like he knows all this and doesn't have to take any notes. And I was kind of embarrassed, and I felt kind of bad. Like I must have made him feel like, like I was being disrespectful. But anyway, that's what you don't want to do. What you want to do is just stay really clued in on what they're saying. And again, if your goal is to take down every concept, not longhand, because if you try to take everything down longhand, you're going to miss stuff. But just the main points, not the main points, but hit everything, but write it down in such a way that at least it's going to trigger your memory as to what the professor, he or she said. And, have a little bit of a plan for how you're going to take notes. There are better ways to take notes than just writing everything down just all over the place. I find there's a method called the outline method, which just makes sense. It's just how I organize stuff generally, which is, you have like the headings, and those go, right to the margin, and then you have, bullets or subheadings under each of those. So, as your professor goes through each concept, you put the sort of the main topic and then sort of everything under that in sort of bullet points. So again, that's a good way to approach just taking notes. And then, rewriting the notes, there's not much to say about that. I definitely did not have a laptop when I was in college, so I wrote everything by hand with a pencil so I can erase it, so that my notes were perfect. When I was done, they were perfect. Everything was just crystal clear. Now with computers, it's so much easier. And then again, the fourth thing is, write down the things you don't understand. Make sure you understand everything like 100%, and the stuff will be more interesting if you get it. Like the things get boring when you really don't quite get it all. So you want to understand everything 100%. And so if you don't, go to your professor's office hours. And don't just rush through stuff, get the short answer. Engage the professor. And trust me, they love it when people come to their office. And engage them in conversation. And they'll give you more on whatever topic you didn't understand than what they gave in lecture. And the other thing is, if you develop a good rapport with your professors, when you have these conversations, you get these clues as to what's going to be on the final. They just do that if they like you. I mean, they're not cheating. They're not going to tell you, the questions that are coming up, but they're going to kind of focus things on what they think is important, and it's going to help you know really what to focus on when you're studying. So again, that's it. Now, I know it's a bold promise to say, you're gonna get to study just a portion of the amount of time that you're studying before, and you're gonna get a 4.0 or at least close to a 4.0. But here's what I have to support that. Wherever you got into college, that means based on your grades, whatever. If they look at SATs, your background, your skills, your talents, whatever it is, those admission officers made a determination that you have the capacity, the skills, you have the ability to succeed at that school. So, and everybody that is admitted as a freshman has the capacity to succeed. So what separates the people who get a 4.0 from, a C average is kind of what they do when they get there. It really is. And I'm telling you, this is the formula. This is the formula. It works. So anyway, would love to hear your comments, love to hear your thoughts, give me your feedback, and hopefully I'll see you next time.